Good evening, everyone. I would like to call to order the Gateway Board of School Directors regular board meeting. Today is Tuesday, February 18th, 2020. Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can we have a roll call, Bonnie?
Yes. Mr. Caleri?
Here.
Mrs. Cerrucci?
Here.
Mrs. Delaney?
Here.
Mr. Gallagher?
Here.
Mr. Gottman?
Here.
Mr. McIntyre?
And confirm.
Mr. Ritter?
Here.
Mr. Williams?
Here.
Thank you. I would like to just jump around for a moment and move to Section C to start our meeting, and then we will move to item 1.
Motion on table item 1.
Second.
We have a motion on the table to untable the renewal of the 5-year charter for Sbrm Charter School, and a second. So we need a vote to untable.
Okay. Roll call. Mrs. Cerrucci?
Aye.
Mrs. Delaney?
Aye.
Mr. Gallagher?
Aye.
Mr. Gottman?
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre?
Aye.
Mr. Ritter?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Caleri?
Aye.
Okay, item is untabled. Do I have a motion to approve to renew the 5-year charter for Sbrm Charter School?
Second.
I'm sorry.
I have a motion.
Who did the?
Mr. McIntyre.
Rick. Okay, I'm sorry.
Second by Mr. Clary.
Larry, thirded by Mr. Williams. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Roll call.
Mrs. Delaney?
Aye.
Mr. Gallagher?
Aye.
Mr. Gottman?
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre?
Aye.
Mr. Ritter?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Caleri?
Aye.
Mrs. Cerrucci?
Aye. Motion carries. We thought we'd save you guys a little bit of time.
Yeah, we decided to move forward with the motion on the agenda to untable, then eventually pass the motion, as you saw here tonight. Please understand that as a board, whenever we do receive information regarding a complaint within a charter or one of our own schools, we are responsible for doing our due diligence in examining, asking for information, especially with a renewal of a charter. I want to thank Michelle Johnson for the information that she provided. We communicated back and forth. Mrs. Bungard was in the process as well. I do thank you for your patience and understanding during this. No, thank you. And I look forward for another 5 years. No.
Okay, with that, I'd like to move to comments from residents on agenda items. Did anybody sign up to speak? Oh, I have the list.
It might be a shorter list.
So
All
do
right.
we want to give people a chance to leave if they so choose right
Oh,
now?
of course.
Yeah,
You know, guys don't have to sit here for the whole meeting if you don't like to.
Yeah.
If anybody would
You can
like to speak
you can
on
stick
agenda
around if
items,
you want.
we can. 2-minute recess so the room can clear out.
I'm full of good ideas. I'm done though for the day.
Ellen Zerba.
Good evening, my name is Ellen Zerba, 120 Asbury Court in Monroeville. Obviously, I had a different statement to say to you folks tonight, but I don't have to say that. So instead, I just simply want to say thank you to all of you on behalf of the 32 families, on behalf of the faculty and the staff and the administration of the Sbrm Charter School. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen. Mr. Yakum.
Easy. I know what's in that box. You think you do. Hopefully it doesn't come airmail.
Good evening. My name is John Yakum. I want to thank the board, Mrs. Cerrucci, for allowing me to spend a few moments speaking. I apologize, I'm off agenda, but I wanted to pass this along to the board. I represent the Western Pennsylvania Beekeeper Seminar that just had an event here at the school this past weekend. This is our 34th year, and we've been doing it 3 years now at Gateway. One of my main reasons to be here is to thank the board for allowing this kind of thing to happen. The second reason for being here, and probably the more important reason, is to let Dr. Short know in public the kind of people he has working in this school district. I want to single a couple of people out, Bob Brown and Dave.
I'll let it check.
Yeah, thank you. Their people are outstanding. Both of those men were very instrumental in basically setting this up the last 3 years. We're probably one more year from being on autopilot. Miko and Barry in technology. Again, the technology from last year to this year was a huge jump. We were able to make some significant improvements in our presentations, and that's going to reflect in, quite frankly, more people seeing what our school can do and show. One custodian in particular, Anna, we had a lot of the custodian staff working with us to help set up, tear down, and I didn't get to interact with them. But Anna interacted with our group most of the day on Saturday, and I had compliments from people about how clean things were. Nothing, the garbage cans never got close to being filled. She was just really on top of anything. And finally, I want to single out Brooke Ruby, Karen Samsa, and the students that ran the Gator Cafe. Once again, that was terrific. It's quite obvious to our attendees what that is. We make it very clear, and I think the kids get a really good opportunity to work out. They're no longer working with just peers; they're working with strangers, and they do a remarkable job. Our folks enjoy it, and they provide a very good service to us, quite frankly. And the last group is we had a terrific stage crew, a couple of students that were stage crew, and they were on top of things. Some of the comments, the school district received a ton of comments. We had people from, I think I counted 9 different states this year. We had 4 guys drive in from Indiana just to hear one of our keynotes. We had a guy from Utah come in just to hear one of our keynotes, and one of our keynotes came out of Georgia. We had a keynote out of Manitoba, Canada. So we really had a real broad spectrum of people coming into the school, as well as people in the region and across the state. We had folks from Philadelphia, Harrisburg. The news is always fast to get a name of a school in the news when it's bad. These folks got to see a section of our school that really is one of the many shining stars that the school has. We have a lot of great attributes in this district, which everybody here knows, but this was just one of them, and it really just pops when you're trying to put on a professional presentation. Last person I want to thank, which is just as an opportunity publicly to thank, is the CVB, the Convention and Visitors Bureau. They worked very closely with us with arranging hotels, working with some of the restaurants, and they provided some financial assistance as well that was greatly appreciated. But we brought in about 350 people to Monroeville. Except for about 6 of us, nobody was from Monroeville. Many of those people had to stay in hotels. We ate in a lot of restaurants. We drank a lot of beer. It was a good event, and the school district really helped make that happen. And I want to say thank you one last time. And as Mr. McIntyre was fast to point out, I am paying my dues.
Oh, I think he's bearing gifts.
There is one for everybody at the big table.
Aw, thank you, Mr. Akam. Can we accept this?
It's under $5 each person.
Honey,
Was that
thank
the dark?
you.
We got, the dark is the fall, and the light is the spring, summer. So,
And my wife is, though the two of you don't always see eye to eye,
we agree there.
you can agree, you both agree on what's good honey. So there's always a jar or two of your stuff in my pantry.
Thank you, Mr. Akam.
Thank you.
All right, the only other person that signed up is Mr. Kenneth Houston, and I do not see him present. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on agenda items that's in the audience? Okay, seeing none, let's move to Section A, which is minutes of previous meetings. Resolve the Gateway School Board of Directors approves the minutes of the following previously held meetings. Study session, January 14th, Budget and Finance, January 21st, regular board meeting, January 21st, and Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting, January 29th.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. McIntyre, second by Mr. Williams. Are there any comments or changes for Mrs. Isha? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call.
Mr. Gallagher. Mr. Gottman. Mr. McIntyre.
Aye.
Mr. Ritter. Mr. Williams. Mr. Caleri. Mrs. Cerrucci.
Aye.
Mrs. Delaney.
Motion carries. Also, I forgot to report that we did have executive session this evening prior to the meeting for an hour to discuss contract negotiations and legal and personnel issues. Let's move on to Section B, Bills and Financial Reports. Mr. Schott.
Mrs. Ritchie, Section B, resolved that the Gateway Board of School Directors approve Sections B1 list of bills. And note there was an additional section of list of bills added after study session meeting as indicated below. B2 monthly financial statements and B3 budget transfers as listed in Section B at the Tuesday, February 18th, 2020 regular board meeting.
Is there a motion?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Williams, second by Mr. Gottman. Questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call.
Mr. Gottman.
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre.
Aye.
Mr. Ritter. Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mr. Caleri.
Aye.
Mrs. Cerrucci.
Aye.
Mrs. Delaney. Mr. Gallagher.
Motion carries. Section D, Personnel Agenda. Mrs. Crump.
Thank you, Mr. Ritchie. Resolved that the Gateway Board of School Directors accepts and approves the personnel agenda items 1 through 7 as listed in Section D for the regular board meeting of Tuesday, February the 18th. Under resignations, we do have 8 listed. There's no change since the study session. We do want to congratulate all of our retirees and thank them for all of their service and their dedication, and we wish them the best of the luck in this next chapter. Under leave of absence, we have 4 presented. There are 2 new additions since the study session that we've called attention to. Under transfers, there are 2 listed, 1 additional. Under Section 4 for employment, we have added since the study session a part-time staff nurse. We also have a temporary teaching position and 5 paraprofessionals. 1 was added since the study session. Supplemental contracts, there was no change. And the only thing we have a change on is volunteers, where we have added 3. And they'll be notated with the asterisk next to them.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Williams, second by Mr. Gottman. Questions, comments for Mrs. Crump?
I just have one comment.
Yes, sir.
For one retiree, Mr. Perriello, I actually did have him in 9th grade as my shop teacher. He was actually one of my favorite teachers. And to this day, I still have the gumball machine, the CD rack, which is still being used, a shelving unit. I mean, this stuff is built to last. So I want to thank him for being an awesome teacher. Congratulations on retirement. Please enjoy it. You deserve it.
I'd be happy to hear
Thank you.
that. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Just one quick note. For the assistant lacrosse coach, Donnie Hall III,
Yes.
I'm assuming that's in relation to our new,
That is the son, yes. He is currently a football coach also. This is adding on assistant lacrosse.
okay, we usually note that they're family
We
of
do
somebody
when
in
they're new,
administration.
but we can still add that for any reelect if you'd like.
Okay, thank
So
you.
yes, that is the son of Don Hall.
Thank you.
And also Mary Jane Petrilli, who's class I subbed in many times. Phenomenal teacher, and I definitely wish her all the best in retirement. Yeah.
Anyone else?
Roll call.
Wait a second. We're just looking at the retirements. We can't signal out two and not the other, so I want to say Larry Boswell, thank you. And obviously, Miss Susan Payne, thank you. And I wonder who's going to take over the ballroom dancing. All right,
I was going to say a few words during my board report about the retirees.
okay,
So, yeah.
all right, then I won't say anything else. Roll call.
Mr. McIntyre.
Aye.
Mr. Ritter.
Aye.
Mr. Williams. Mr. Caleri.
Aye.
Mrs. Cerucci.
Aye.
Mrs. Delaney.
Aye.
Mr. Gallagher.
Aye.
Mr. Gottman.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Okay, motion carries. Section E, conferences and conventions. We don't have any, do we? And F is administrative resolutions. That's because it was an action last week.
Item number 1, approve the agreement with step-by-step learning for professional development services for Title II, non-public equitable share.
Item number 2, approve the field trip request for FBLA state competition. Item number 3, the 2020-2021 school year calendar. Approve the school year calendar as depicted in Exhibit A.
Item number 4, approve the Tricog Land Bank's notice of intent to acquire 3 Monroeville properties and 1 Pitcairn property located within the Gateway School District, and the waiver of all applicable taxes, tax claims, and municipal claims due against each of the 4 properties as depicted in Exhibit B. Item number 5, approve the advertisement for requests for proposals from vendors for geotechnical engineering services. Item number 6, approve the master service agreement with DQE Communications LLC for wide area connection telecommunications network between school building services and the monthly pre-discount amount, $4,250, beginning on July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2025, as depicted in Exhibit C.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McIntyre, second by Mr. Williams. Is there any questions, comments? Seeing none, whenever you're ready, Bonnie.
Mr. Ritter.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mr. Caleri.
Aye.
Mrs. Cerucci.
Aye.
Mrs. Delaney.
Aye.
Mr. Gallagher.
Aye.
Mr. Gottman.
Aye, except number 4.
Mr. McIntyre.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, section G, resolutions by board members. Mr. McIntyre, you're up on this one.
Oh, sorry.
You better take a drink of water before you proceed to read
Do I have to
this.
read this whole thing again?
don't, just read the
That's what I thought.
Just give us the highlights.
Yeah, it's a resolution calling for charter school funding reform by the Board of Directors of the Gateway School District as depicted below. So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McIntyre and second by Mr. Williams. Are there any more questions or comments for discussion? Okay, seeing none.
Mr. Williams.
Aye.
Mr. Caleri.
Aye.
Mrs. Cerucci.
Aye.
Mrs. Delaney.
Aye.
Mr. Gallagher.
Aye.
Mr. Gottman.
Aye.
Mr. McIntyre.
Aye.
Mr. Ritter.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Are there any comments from residents on non-agenda items this evening? Okay, seeing none, we can move on to reports. I'll start with you, Mrs. Bungart. Do you have anything for us this evening?
Okay, thank you, Ms. Rucci. Yes, actually, I just want to remind everyone that we will be hosting, the Special Education Department will be hosting our annual Early Intervention Parent Evening tomorrow night at Mosside Middle School Library from 6:30 to 8. So we welcome all of our incoming students' families. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Chaggy?
Nothing, thank you.
Dr. Rossi?
Nothing at this time.
Mr. Shaw?
Nothing further, thank you.
Mrs. Crump?
Nothing at this time.
Mrs. Delaney?
Oh, of course. I have a quote, and I have a quote, even though, as I said, I don't celebrate Black History Month just in the month of February, so you will usually get either some reading or some information or a quote. And this is one from Colin Powell. There are no secrets to success. It is the result of preparation, hard work, and learning from failure.
That's a good one. Short and sweet. Mr. Gallagher?
Yeah, just continuing on what I mentioned last month about Black History Month, a friend and mentor of mine, Reverend Jackie Lewis, PhD, she serves a community in New York, posted a painting yesterday that I wish I had time to blow it up. I can pass it around for everybody to take a look at. This is a painting from Titus Kafar, and it's called "The Myth Behind the Myth of Benevolence," and it just speaks to the reality that our history is complex, and sometimes as we celebrate President's Day and other holidays such as that, we want to almost deify these founding fathers whose lives were extremely complicated. You have a portrait of Thomas Jefferson being peeled back by Sally Hemings, representing all those that are unspoken of in history that played a foundational role in that history. And as I looked at that painting yesterday, I started thinking about all those in my life, persons of color that have made me who I am and have supported me and encouraged me and educated me along the way. So as we celebrate Black History Month, I wanted to thank all of them. I wish I could list all of their names individually, but we'd be here probably longer than this meeting has taken us this evening. But I especially wanted to pull out Erica Jackson and Lance Young and the other members of our Black Student Union who are making history here in Gateway right now, and the movements that Gateway has made with the different culturally responsive pedagogy and the focus on eliminating the achievement gap.
Thank you. Mr. Flaherty, you're up.
I always sit next to somebody who has a really good closing statement. It doesn't matter. I can't follow that. In honor of Black History Month, though, I do have a quote by Frederick Douglass. It's not nearly that long, but it's poignant. You are not judged by the height you have risen, but from the depths you have climbed. With that,
From the 5'6" man.
sitting next to the 6'6" man.
He's not ready yet, so I'm going to skip him. Do you have anything?
No.
Okay. I'll come back to you too. Mr. Ritter.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Galtman.
Oh, okay. I was just going to talk about our artwork, and I do want to pull up the actual description of what we have. So the artwork that we have for this week comes from our high schoolers. Looks like we have grade 10 and 12. The theme of it, students will work to develop their drawing and painting skills in both traditional and illustrative styles. Working with watercolor, ink, and acrylic paint, students broaden their understanding of the merits and limitations of each paint medium, applied color theory, and develop their skills in paint technique. And looking at these drawings we have here, I mean, they are absolutely amazing. Everywhere between Alice in Wonderland, we got Spider-Man. The flowers are very detailed, which I love. And we even have a scene from, if the artist can't correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks like it's from The Truman Show. But these are amazing, amazing pieces of art. And, you know, again, great job. I'm always looking forward to seeing more. And, again, that's grades 12 and 10. So that's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Galtman. Mr. Williams.
Yeah, I'd just like to say congratulations to retirees. Larry, I don't believe it until he's actually gone. Henry has done a great job here, and he's also a great friend. And Mary Jane, you will be missed. And also the girls are in a playoff game tonight against PT, and at halftime they were losing 17-8
8 points at half.
at half.
For a better second half.
Dylan Carr, that's a headliner. 8 points in 1/2.
And that's all I have this evening.
Okay. Can I come back to you now?
Yeah, sorry.
Mr. McIntyre, you have the floor.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't have much tonight. I was going to share with Mr. Williams just said, and wish the best of luck to our girls team playing Penn Trafford at Norman tonight. I expect we'll get a full report from Mrs. Warning, who chose to be at that game tonight instead of at a voting meeting. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. I saved the best for last.
Thank you.
Dr. Short.
On the spot. To all of our retirees, and we have many, I'm not going to name them, however, I've spent probably 20-odd years at the high school with a few teachers. Mr. Williams and many others named them tonight. Gateway is a very special place, and it's the people that make this district. the students, the employees, staff, board, community. We're proud of all of our accomplishments academically, socially, but more importantly, the education that each and every one of our kids receive. And it's from these employees that have spent 35, 37 years of their life passionately educating our children. And it's important that we understand and recognize them for their accomplishments. And I personally thank them because I've spent many, many hours with the individuals up there at the high school. And I'm proud of the work that they've done. I've supported them over their careers. And they're walking out, and they should be proud of everything that they've done over their careers. And I spent some special time with them recently when they submitted their letter of retirement, and some tears were shed, and it was an emotional time. However, I assured them that there is life after Gateway. Once a Gator, always a Gator, but enjoy the next period of their life. They've earned it. So I issued them their diploma as they walked out my door. To our custodial staff, Mr. Brown, Mr. Levichek, maintenance crew, we take on every event as if it's ours. And I want to thank Mr. Yakum for the kind words, because it means a lot to those individuals that are up there, prepare the buildings day in and day out. It makes no difference if there's a beekeeper event, or if the first day or the 14th day of school. I think we all know that our facilities are top-notch whenever our students and staff enter. And I'd like to commend Bob and his staff for everything that they do. Anna as well, because Anna worked for me a number of years, and she's a very dedicated employee, and she's on top of things before we even call her. So thank you, Anna. Also, we have a policy meeting scheduled for the 25th. I believe that's next Tuesday. We'll be discussing a number of different policies, one of which associated with the cyber school and weighted credits. So I do want to make that announcement. It will be posted, and I believe Bonnie has already posted it. We will have the agenda forthcoming. That's all I have for tonight.
Very good. Thank you. With that, I'd like to seek a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Yep.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Adjourn.